What is up, my fellow clone troopers? Welcome to a brand new Star Wars video. So today we are talking about Star Wars The Bad Batch Episode 1 titled Aftermath, and I've been looking forward to this moment. I really have, just because, well, there's a few reasons. Obviously, very unique time setting for a new Star Wars animation show. Obviously, the characters and everything in the trailer looked quite appealing, but something that's interesting about me, I'm not the biggest animation fan. That may be why you might not have seen Invincible being covered on this channel. By the way, little preview, I do plan on binging it and doing a review video, but for example, I dropped the ball with that. But when it's Star Wars, obviously I'm going to make a video about this new Star Wars thing. I want to incorporate a lot more Star Wars onto the channel, just like what I've done with The Mandalorian. But yeah, I'm the kind of fan who doesn't just get so immersed into animations. I don't know why. I have nothing against them, but hey, I have a lot of good things to say about The Bad Batch Episode 1. There's a lot of cool moments in this, so here's my breakdown, review, recap, and I guess with first episodes of a season, if you're brand new here, I give more of a first impressions and actual slapdown kind of review, rather than, oh look, there was a little sticker of Obi-Wan attached to this guy's jetpack, so that Easter egg must mean that Obi-Wan's going to appear in Episode 3. But to be fair, there are quite a few cool Easter eggs and little hints and teasers to the larger Star Wars world, which of course in an animation, as long as this first episode being like an hour and 15 minutes, you couldn't resist but put in. But before we get into the breakdown, let me just give my first impression. I'm going to keep this short and summarized. Episode 1, I felt like it had a really good start. It was quite a long episode, but I didn't find myself dipping into levels of boredom, if you will, at any point, and that's surprising, as I said, for a guy who's not really immersed into animation. Like, seriously, I don't watch a lot of them. Clone Wars, I watched like pickingly, if that makes sense, and season 7. I've watched all of Rebels, but yeah, what I was interested in is this show's ability to capture my interest. I really like how it captures the perspective of people in the Star Wars universe, or should I say soldiers, who were there at the start of the Galactic Empire, yet they're clones who aren't affected by the brainwashing, if you will, of their inhibited ship, but it's still the perspective of soldiers still, and that's kind of what I'm trying to like underline here, just not the brainwashed ones, so we can get like an actual account of troopers who were loyal, but once things turned to the rise of the new Galactic Empire, then yeah, you're gonna start questioning things, and that's exactly what we see. So that is interesting to me, seeing them navigate the waters in such a brittle time in Star Wars history. Towards the beginning segment of this video, I want to say what most attracted you to this show. Is it the time setting? I suppose that is what it is for everyone, but maybe you were just a huge fan of Star Wars animations previously anyway, whether that's Rebels or the Clone Wars. I would just love to see your responses in terms of that, but let's get into the actual breakdown of how this episode started off. So, first of all, I really like seeing almost like a scene for scene. It's like they must have got the storyboard or the frames up, because they drew those scenes from the Revenge of the Sith parts where we saw Obi-Wan and Anakin rescuing Chancellor Palpatine perfectly. Like, we had Grievous like coughing before he's about to hit the eject button. That was like really cool seeing them, especially when it's so accurately done to the film. You may be thinking, but why wouldn't it be? Well, usually with things like this, they sometimes just do it in their own little adapted way. It may be obviously similar, but not exactly the same to the live action version. But hey, that was brilliantly done, and it was just great to see it. Big fan of Revenge of the Sith. And of course, this show really quickly wants to set up the Bad Batch members, or at this point, clones who are referred to as a group called Clone Force 99. If you are wondering what's up with Clone Force 99, I think people are getting mixed up. I mean, I could be wrong here with it being like the 99th batch of clones, but I think it is more of like a tribute to obviously the actual Clone 99, and I'm sure this is like most people, well, a lot of people's most favorite episode, one of their most favorite episodes from the Clone Wars series. So the Bad Batch being called Clone Force 99 is probably more down to the fact that they took that name in honor of Clone Trooper 99, obviously from that one episode where during the battle on Kamino, he helped all of those other Clone Trooper soldiers right up into his dying breath. And obviously Clone Trooper 99 suffered from genetic freaking mutations as well, just like the Bad Batch, even though they are genetically mutated and defective in, I guess, better ways that didn't just put them down to a janitor level like Clone Trooper 99. But Clone Trooper 99, and what made that episode so good for a lot of people, is that he still did such an impactful thing. And since he also suffered defective mutations, obviously they wanted to given homage to him and a tribute. So that's the story behind it. I'm pretty sure. Either that or they're the 99th batch of clones. But I'm pretty sure that the better origin would be the one I just said. You can't really expect the Bad Batch to make, or should I say Clone Force 99 to make any other introduction than the Badass one. I did feel like a little bit off when the freaking Caleb, or Kanan, shall I say, jumping to Dad, and his master were just kind of standing there the whole time. But I suppose you could believe it and saying, well, they just wanted to watch the action. But you would have thought they would have got up there and done some Jedi stuff. But I understand why this was done, to put the spotlight on Clone Force 99, or aka the Bad Batch. So once again, we see Kanan in animation, but once again, younger. Obviously, his name is Caleb here. Before taking on Kanan, he's with his master, just like what we saw before in the Clone Wars series. The only thing that threw me off, like, I'm sorry, call this nitpicking, is that he has such a deep voice for such a little young Padawan. Do you know what I mean? It's almost really off-putting. I know, obviously, they attempted to put, like, childish mannerisms to him, or like a Padawan's mannerisms, but I was still kind of like, hey, it's Kanan. It's just a bit weird, but hey ho. It was still awesome seeing Kanan again. Like, and it ties everything together. I was kind of, believe it or not, unpopular opinion, more of a fan of Rebels than Clone Wars, and I know that is an unpopular opinion, so that's why this is still really cool to me. Another thing, as this was all unfolding, I know this is going on at the same time, but I like how much they pointed out other things that I'm incredibly familiar with through rinsing Revenge of the Sith 1,000 times in my Blu-ray or DVD player or V8, whatever, when I was a kid, is that we saw the clones saying intelligence is found, that Obi-Wan has engaged General Grievous at this point on Utapau, sorry, I always get that screwed up, Utapau, whatever. Which is, of course, when we knew Order 66 very soon followed, and that it very much so did in a couple of scenes after this. But at this point, I was just picturing Obi-Wan, you know, on Utapau, god damn it, I keep wanting to say Upteu. And yeah, like all of that stuff going on in Revenge of the Sith, and like when he gets shot off by the clones, when Order 66 happens, so all of this was great, and that is, as where I said, Order 66 begins with Caleb's master. We had the clones get the order. This is quite sad because obviously there's so many clones on her trying to kill her, and she's screaming out to Caleb to run, and we get to see the origin of Kanan from Rebels fleeing, and how he, you know, I guess, you know, got lost in the wind ultimately. But this was the start of the foundation for some tension between some characters such as Crosshair, who is one of the Bad Batch members, but his inhibited chip, as they detail later on in the episode, is a bit more intact to listening to the orders, unlike the other ones. And that's something I really liked about this. I really like Hunter. I think he's going to be most people's favorite character. Maybe not. I mean, obviously he's the leader, but obviously him and the other clone members of Clone Force 99 were just like, what even is Order 66? They don't even know what's going on. So obviously Kanan, or Caleb should I say at this point, wasn't trusting even of the Bad Batch guys. So they were just as confused as he is, but eventually Kanan gets off in the wind, thanks to Hunter for letting him escape, but also Crosshair in this episode was very, very suspicious of this moment, and from there on out, because, yeah, as I said, he still has a little bit of that, like, order in his head, so he's really wanting to not abandon orders, and he wants to follow through with, obviously, what Palpatine put out to every clone in the galaxy. This is where more weird things unfold. I mean, it's not weird to every other clone trooper, but it's weird to the Bad Batch guys, because now they're like returning into the Lion's Den. It's pretty insane. I mean, they return home. I suppose it's not the Lion's Den. That would be Coruscant. They return to Camino, but the Coruscant Guard are there, and this is obviously where you get that moment from Palpatine, that kind of really sinister speech. It's really cool seeing it from this angle. And usually I'm very apprehensive of new stories being told in older times, because, you know, you might have characters like Cal Kestis from Cameron Monaghan or whoever, right, injected at a certain point in time, and this is like the cliche kind of reason as to why it can be risky. It's like, well, why weren't they in the films? Why weren't they doing this? Now I know the defense for that is they could have been doing something else, or they might have died by that point. But I don't know, you still have to be really careful, because, for example, when you're playing Cal Kestis during Fallen Order, it's just like, arguably he is more powerful than Luke Skywalker at the Empire Strikes Back. I know that was filmed in the 80s and it's like not as cool as Cal. You get what I'm trying to say though, right? It kind of puts me off a bit when there's lots of characters being put into intricate timeline points of Star Wars where you feel like they could be held out, but I feel what Bad Batch is doing, with my main point back on track now, now, is that you've got characters like this who are super compelling and interesting, or at least can be, in this time setting, which is very, very, very interesting as well. But they can be in this universe, and not to their, discredit, but without making as much of an impact as what you could argue Cal could be doing, or Ezra. I mean, granted that he did disappear for a long time, so that's why he wasn't around. But you get my point. With Clone Troopers, there's still good story to be told, to the point of where you could actually imagine them blended into the live action movies that we got right there and then. At this part, we actually got our proper Bad Batch explanations. So it was said that the Kaminoans inhibited the cognitive functions of clones to engineer them to follow orders without question. I mean, obviously that's what we know clones to be. However, the Bad Batch is different because they manipulated the pre-existing aberrations in their DNA, resulting, for example, in the brute strength, or for example, Crosshair's sharpshooting skills. So they're immune to the effects of the programming, but he can't be 100% about it. So at that point in the episode, he's talking about Crosshair, because it's like they shouldn't be affected by Order 66, even though Crosshair obviously still has this somewhat unwavering loyalty to the Empire, or should I say Palpatine in general. However, Echo, though, was a reg, as they refer to the regular clone troopers, so he should obviously have the Order 66 carried out to full fruition, but due to his battle damage that he sustained, it wiped out all of the preset behavioral modifications, to the point of where they said another reference, he's more machine than man. Yeah. Anyone recognize that line? You should. Now, another character who we kind of all expected, but it's just so interesting. Once again, seeing Tarkin arrive, evaluate the Kamino facilities, like, do we really need them anymore? I mean, I know they're more effective than what maybe we have planned. Obviously, with people signing up to be stormtroopers at half the price. But, I don't know if we need to spend all the money on slightly more effective troopers, because obviously we had that conversation between Tarkin and this Kamino dude. I think the Prime Minister, they were both arguing points for how order needs to still be maintained in the galaxy, now there's a whole empire, and that the clone troopers can do that, but Tarkin's like, yeah, but budget costs, man, maybe we shouldn't continue this along, which, obviously sets a little bit more of that explanation into why there aren't clone troopers in the original Star Wars trilogy. This is where we meet another interesting character, one that really caught me off guard, and I didn't know, how important she was, to be honest, and I thought, okay, clearly something's going on with this character, but I don't know. And that is Omega. So we saw her eat lunch with the other troopers. She seemed very fascinated with the Bad Batch. They intuitively, and this is because of their defectiveness or whatever, obviously they all have different abilities enhanced more than other ones, but there seemed to be this unanimous sensory kind of, I know you, you're something to me. And as we got revealed at the end of the episode, that is because she is in fact the 5th Bad Batch member, and it's not Echo, as we just detailed. Echo is a reg, but had the inhibitor damage, so he could easily still qualify to be in Bad Batch. But yeah, back on point, Omega is a very young, also female, who is one of them, defective, she's a part of the tribe of the Bad Batch, and should be, and that is how things followed this episode. So kind of jumping to that very quickly, didn't expect, for a kid to be, I suppose, in the Bad Batch. I don't know how far they're going to bring this, or how far out they're going to take her. At least for now, I'm assuming that she's still going to be along for the ride. But I kind of like, especially towards the end of the episode, it's quite nice, this kind of camaraderie they found with her. Obviously, they went back for her to try and save her. And through that journey, I kind of became a bit more attached to the character, and kind of how the Bad Batch guys wanted to look after her. It's kind of like a little bit of a dynamic where you had young Ezra, and then everyone else was a bit older. I suppose you had Sabine, but yeah, you get my point. Now, she is a medical assistant to the Kaminoans, but I suspect, and they basically confirmed this to us anyway, she is very special. She was hanging around with the Kamino, I can't freaking say the name, but you get my point, all the time. You could argue that's because she had to, shadow them, because of, she had a separate job as a medical assistant. But at the end, and I am jumping to that scene, where we had one Kaminoan speaking to the Prime Minister Kaminoan, she said that we must be cautious until the Empire's intentions have been made clear. We must say nothing. Oh yeah, and that's with regards to Omega, by the way. They don't want to say anything about her until they kind of feel the Empire out. So, very interested to see what, I guess, they're on about there with Omega, and now the fact that she's with the Bad Batch, it could be on about her defective mutation and maybe how that makes Omega special. I went into Bad Batch quite blind. I saw the trailers, don't get me wrong, but I can't remember much from that period, so I don't really know what to expect other than, I'm sure, I mean, we got a little bit of a tease with how intuitive she is, but she's got some special properties, I'm sure, that the Prime Minister was kind of subtly hinting at there, and she is one of the Bad Batch defective kind of people, so expect interesting things from Omega to come. I did appreciate the clone training as well, because this was kind of a little shout out to the clone training episode way back in the Clone Wars, which I believe, if I remember correctly, was actually introducing Echo, but obviously in that episode they weren't working together very well, whereas obviously the Bad Batch here just slaying as much as they could up until frickin' Tarkin wanted to switch to live fire. Tarkin, you little bastard. Shows how they go off book a little bit, don't stick to necessarily super traditionalist battle strategy, which actually really enables them to be a bit of an outlier and be more successful in situations like this. Like shooting that knife right into that other droid's head right at the end as, like, I believe one of the final moves was a pretty awesome moment. At this point, with Tarkin being a bit fascinated but also suspicious, he sets them up on that mission. Omega does warn them and Hunter about Tarkin and even returning back. She points out that he doesn't like clones and may have it out for you. So it's like what he was doing there, yeah, I guess was to test the waters a little bit, see if there was any disobedience, because Tarkin definitely saw there was something up with the Bad Batch guys, so he sent in an Imperial probe droid to monitor them on the mission, because he sent them to wipe out a separatist encampment, so they were expecting battle droids, but no, it was actually a bunch of kids, former rebel fighters, farmers, you name it, like good people, but one of them was Saw Gerrera. Of course they had to inject him in here. I mean, I'm not complaining, I just feel like Saw is I feel like one of, if not the most cameoed characters in all of these animations. But yet again, what I appreciate about this moment, this is right as Order 66 happened. Right as we see a young newbie kind of Saw Gerrera, who I like the reference to General Skywalker, you know, helping train him and stuff in the good old days of the Republic. So yeah, I like seeing this as it was happening. Seeing a younger Saw only just getting the spark for rebellion was pretty cool. Obviously the Bad Batch weren't mega on board with killing them. So yeah, once again, one thing I keep echoing in this review, seeing the perspective of troopers who have served with the Republic, who are meant to have also turned against them, and their opinion on all of this is just, I guess, giving us interesting opportunities and scenes to see in the Star Wars universe in a time that we have seen before in live action, but not in every single facet. And hey, I'm game to see more little facets open up of this time period with moments like this, especially now that obviously with them not really being on board with the orders and Tarkin not being happy with that, they're kind of like on their own. Either way though, guys, they essentially go back, shite goes a bit south, Omega gets captured. She also tries to reach out to Crosshair, which I found interesting, and I think Crosshair, we may see eventually his inhibitor chip damaged to the point of where we get to see the real Crosshair, because other than that, like, even the freaking voice actor's voice is the most obvious bad guy. It's like, how touching, or he's plotting against the Emperor. Just, when there's a voice or an Imperial voice like that, you know that character isn't necessarily good, but I can see that this character could go interesting places. And it also gave me a little bit of interesting speculation about Omega, because when she touched him, and it's like she was trying to reach out into his mind, like a little bit of a Forcey ability, but that would be interesting if they ever went in that direction. Behind the scenes though, Tarkin literally sent Crosshair's inhibitor chip and the order within it into overdrive, so he was fully fledged Order 66 mode, which led to obviously a little bit of a standoff. The Bad Batch managed to escape, but obviously this isn't the last of what we're going to see from their difficulties in terms of living, I guess, as Republic members in a post-Republic and now Empire world. That's going to be a very hard thing, as it was very hard for anyone. Like Order 66 Jedi, you basically had to dissolve. So being fully transparent here, I'm looking forward to seeing where this journey takes them, and what more we can see from a post-Revenge of the Sith world, or Order 66 world. And I think that's mainly it. Like, I know I could have gone into little bits of more detail on every minuscule scene, but I feel like it was a long episode for an animation, and honestly guys, Bad Batch, I was surprised at how I maintained a consistent level of interest. Now I hope obviously the future episodes are just as interesting. There isn't as much fluff or maybe fillery, like newbie animation bits. I mean, I know the Clone Wars did that a lot, and there are 16 episodes in this, so I hope for them to tell a little bit more of a cohesive, in terms of story and main plot-driven Star Wars story. Overall though, my main consensus is that I enjoyed this show. It was a strong start for it. It has potential. It didn't invade too much on, I guess, main Star Wars canon, all while it was actually a part of it at the same time. It wasn't invasive, where it's like, well, how could they have done that and been there when the movies did this? It was within that world, but fleshed it out organically, and that is very good because, as I said earlier, with my concerns of injecting stuff into pre-established canon, it can be a little bit yeah. And yeah, so I enjoyed Bad Batch. Would you like to see future reviews from me on this channel? That's going to be the interesting one to see, because this was more of a bonus video for me. I wouldn't necessarily review animation unless I was super into it. Now, why am I doing this? Because I'm super into Star Wars and I enjoyed this episode. But would you like to see more of a proper breakdown format of future episodes, little Easter eggy bits that we find? Let me know down in the comments below. And maybe you just want to hear me ramble with my opinions about this anyway. But regardless, guys, thank you so much for watching. I would love to know your thoughts, so let me see them down in the comments below. Click the like button if you did enjoy it, and maybe check out the other links in the top pinned comment of that comment section, which is my comment, where you can find links to my Twitter, my Discord server, places to support me like Patreon, and maybe the join button on this channel. But yeah, I'm going to leave now, so thank you so much for watching, everybody. Hope you all have a lovely rest of your day, and I'll see you members of the Bad Batch in the next video. Goodbye.